Hi, I'm Russ and welcome to Simply Wooden Creations. Back in February, I built my daughter Brandy a ladder shelf for her bathroom. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I finished the shelf. I took advantage of the fact that we're redoing one of the bedrooms to make it into my wife's office. While the room was empty, I decided to use it as a spray booth to spray the ladder shelf. So why don't you grab some popcorn, kick back and relax, and watch this video of me and how I finished the ladder shelf. Simply Wooden Creations is brought to you by Devobal Technologies Incorporated. For web design, development, and hosting, visit devobal.com. I'm using Minwax Stain in one of their stock colors called Special Walnut. It's the color my daughter chose. She had a picture of something she wanted me to try to replicate the finish, or the look of the finish. So this is the color we chose to try to do that. I'm not using any thinner whatsoever for the stain, straight out of the can. Also, I'm using an HVLP gun that I got from Harbor Freight. This one's lasted me for over 5 years. You keep them clean and they'll last you a good long time. And the air pressure I'm running is about 40 psi. I do not put this on real heavy. I apply several thin coats, even with the stain, until I get the look that I want or desired. I really don't want this to run because I'm not going to wipe it at all. I'm just going to let it stay on the wood just the way it is. If you'll notice, from time to time I'll make adjustments on my gun. Most of the time it's for the width of the pattern from where I'm spraying. If you'll notice in the background also, I have the just one of my shop fans sitting in the window, and I just stuck an AC filter to it while it was running, which stays right there in place, and it does a real good job of keeping all the overspray out of the room. If you notice that this is actually the bottom, I started off with the bottom of the ladder shelf first, and then I will flip it over and do the top side. And now it's on to the poly. After the stain has dried, which probably took I left it about 4 or 5 hours just to make sure, I start applying the coats of poly. This is the first coat, and I'm using Minwax oil-based poly. I thin it with spraying thinner, not mineral spirits, at the rate of about 1 to 2 tablespoons per about 12 to 14 ounces of poly. I'm using the same HV LP gun, and I boosted the pressure up to probably about 50 psi at this point. So I'm just going to put a fairly good coat. I do not want it to run, so I'm not going to lay it on heavy. It's just a fairly good, I would call it almost a primer coat. Now, if you notice, this time I have started on the the top or the outside, whichever you prefer to say it, to coat the stain first. So that way when I flip it upside down, that top shelf will be protected with the poly, so I won't get any rubs or scratch marks on the actual stain. And now, the moment we've all waited for, the sanding. I believe everybody will agree with me. This is probably one of the most dreaded parts of any project, is the sanding. I'm going to start off with, on this first coat, with 150 grit sandpaper. I will sand with the grain as much as possible, although it can't always do every piece like that, but stay with the grain as much as possible. Giving it a light sanding where I can rub my hand across it and feel it and make sure that it's smooth. Now, I'm not going to include every aspect of the sanding in this this video, but once I get it sanded, then I will use a tack cloth and wipe it down, and then I'll also take the air hose and blow it off before the actual next coat of poly. Also, once I apply the second coat of poly, I'll come back and sand it again with 220 grit sandpaper. The exact same way, sand it to touch, following the grain of the wood as much as possible. Then I'll come back, tack cloth it again, blow it off, and apply the third coat of poly onto it. Now, at this point, it all determines on how many times I will sand it. Usually it's about 3 times. After the third coat, usually I can run my hand across it and it's pretty well smooth. If there is any areas that need it, I'll just spot sand them, and then after that I do not sand it anymore. Now, this particular project has 6 coats of poly, so I think I lightly sanded a few places that I had were a little rough on the 4th coat, but the 5th and 6th coat of poly, there was no sanding in between. Just a light blow off with the air hose to make sure of any dust or contaminants, and just shot the poly right over the top of the, right over the top. I continued to apply coats of poly for a total of 6 coats. It was the desired finish that my daughter and I both wanted on the ladder shelf, and also it was going in her master bathroom, so therefore I wanted to make sure it had plenty of protection from the humidity in the bathroom.
Well, hello, and thanks for watching me here on YouTube. You know, I have some other videos that you just might enjoy, so if you have a minute, check them out. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to me here on YouTube. I sure would appreciate it. And remember, if you're too darn busy to get out in the shop and make some sawdust, you're just too darn busy. Thanks again. God bless and have a nice day.